Hey guys. Introduction. The oldest wisdom in the world tells us we can consciously unite with the divine while in this body. For this, man is really born. If he misses his destiny, nature is not in a hurry. She will catch him up someday and compel him to fulfill her secret purpose. That was President Radhakrishna, former president of India from 1962 to 67. Excuse me. We all want to know why we are here. What is our mission in life? Those people who know it are easy to spot. Their lives shine with meaning. Their perception of their life's purpose gives them the strength to live through the rough times, as well as to enjoy the good. Many people, however, are confused or completely in the dark about their reason for living. Through my years as a medical intuitive, that is Caroline Myss, the writer of this book. It's called Sacred Contracts. Through her years as a medical intuitive, Caroline Myss, someone who can read a person's internal psychological condition intuitively, rather than by physical examination and diagnosis. She had frequently been asked, "Why am I sick? And how can I heal?" Even more often and more insistently, she was asked, "Why am I here? What is my real purpose? What should I be doing with my life?" This lack of self-understanding and direction is a health problem itself. In a sense, for it can lead to all sorts of emotional stresses, including depression, anxiety, and fatigue. And when these stresses or negative emotions become entrenched, they can contribute to the development of illness. It's not only your mind that wants to know your mission. This knowledge is vitally important to your body and spirit as well. A confused or directionless life has other consequences. Lack of knowledge of your mission can become a destructive force in your relationships. As the late theologian, mystic, and Harvard professor Howard Thurman often said, there are two questions that we have to ask ourselves. The first is, where am I going? And the second is, who will go with me? If you ever get these questions in the wrong order, you are in trouble. Without self-understanding, without aim, we can hurt others around us as well as ourselves. If we don't have a clear sense of how to see the bigger picture when things go wrong, we are not able to respond appropriately to events or to people. A man named Philip once told me that he would probably still be happily married if he had only had a better sense of what he should be doing and where he belonged. He had been frustrated for years, and his chronic discontent took such a toll on his wife that she finally left him. Even after his divorce, however, Philip was unable to make the kinds of changes in his life and career that he needed to make. The problem with change, Philip told me, is that one change is never enough. Once the process starts, you can't stop it. He is right, of course, and yet, as the renowned Jungian psychologist James Hillman once said, quote, "You have to give up the life you have to get the life that's waiting for you." If Philip could have seen where he was going, he would have been able to act more appropriately. He would not have been so self-involved, and he and his wife would both have been better off. But he could not find a way to get himself on track. Caroline Myss, after helping people find and use their inner compass for more than 17 years, has come to believe that this absence of spiritual and emotional orientation has become an epidemic. Besides being a personal problem for many people, it is also a global concern. From a cosmically practical point of view, what good is it the universe to have a planet filled with souls who have no idea whatsoever why they are here or what they are supposed to be doing. When people ask Caroline Myss how they could fix or heal their lives, how they could find the right direction in which to head, she often would direct them to pray for guidance. As valuable as prayer is, she wondered if there was not some other definite way or process by which they could bring clarity to their lives and find their purpose. No one can see everything in advance, of course, but if we have a way of looking at the symbolic meaning of our experiences, we could be more prepared to face and accommodate the inevitable changes. Rather than fight change and build up emotional scar tissue, we would be able to choose to see events in a different light, accept the changes, and get on with our lives. Given the personal and global, and I'm going to add galactic, significance of knowing our mission, why has it been so difficult to find out what it is? How can we best search and inquire? Why do some people find their mission easily while others struggle for a clue? How can we get better at figuring it out? For our own good, each of us needs to learn what our mission is, because the details of how we live our lives accumulate to create health or illness. As Caroline Myss discovered after conducting more than 8,000 medical intuitive readings in those 17 years, quote, "Our biography becomes our biology," which she wrote about in Anatomy of the Spirit. In other words, the little troubles and major traumas that we go through take up residence and live in our bodies and affect or block our energy. So it stands to reason that the further we stray from our true mission in life, the more frustrated we will become and the more out of sync our energies will be. By coming to know your mission, you can live your life in a way that makes best use of your energy. When you are working well with your energy, you are also making the best expression of your personal power. Caroline Myss called this living in accord with your sacred contract. In her intuitive readings, she has been able to help people work more consciously with their energy by spotting the traumas or other life events that have lingered in their energy fields. When she brings these memories back up into their awareness, they can often see how they have lost their energy or power through their over-identification with these wounds or experiences. Over-identification with these wounds or experiences. Once they see these energy leaks, they can proceed to call back their spirit. While this remembering can be helpful, most people can already recall such major experiences without any help. But when she believed that she have genuinely assisted people is by helping them identify and interpret the underlying pattern of thoughts and beliefs that color their memories. In these sub-pattern lie the interpretations and meanings that you assign to your experiences. These interpretations become cellular memories and carry the emotional energy charge that affects your biography and consequently your biology. When you remember, for example, that you excelled in math at school, that memory of success might have a positive, inspiring effect on your body and mind. But if your success in math causes resentment or alienated you from jealous friends or siblings, it would also carry a negative emotional charge. Perhaps this negative charge attaches itself to every subsequent success, and you begin to associate guilt with achievement. Say, however, that your experience of these emotional complications actually prepared you to face later challenges. Rather than being angry at those jealous friends or siblings, you could become grateful for their contribution to your life training. By reading your own energy, by becoming aware of the lens through which you see your world, you can change your mind and you can change your life. In detecting the emotional charge in your biography, you can begin to see how the fragments of your history have worked together in ways that have affected your past, your present, and the state of your health. This perspective is what she calls symbolic sight. Seeing your life in broad strokes and bright pieces allows you to redraw your conception of your future and fill in the fine, interpretive lines more consciously. Symbolic sight enables you to get back your energy or spirit and heal emotionally, spiritually, and sometimes even physically. Symbolic sight will be an important method of working with your energy to bring your sacred contract into focus. When Caroline Myss reads someone symbolically, she sees his energy in all his individual roles, streaming out and around him. Yet she simultaneously sees him as a unified sum of all his parts. And she also sees him as a single cell connected to a greater matrix of energy. In her readings, her subjects become human holograms. Their overall energy pattern is reflected in their individual cells, just as our individual souls hum actively within a kind of global soul comprising all life on the planet. Our words, thoughts, deeds, and visions influence our individual health just as they affect the health of everyone around us. As vital parts of a larger universal spirit, we each have been put here on earth to fulfill a sacred contract that enhances our personal spiritual growth while contributing to the evolution of the entire global soul, or galactic whole, as I would say. Our life's mission or contract cannot be defined or measured simply by our external life, however. Your purpose is not only your career or hobby or romantic relationship. There we go. Your purpose is not only your career or hobby or external life or romantic relationship. A contract is your overall relationship to your personal power and your spiritual power. It is how you work with your energy and whom you give it to. It is also how much you are willing to surrender to divine guidance. Although a contract is not the physical details of your life, you can use those details to figure out what your contract is. Your life is composed of many facets that shimmer and reflect both your physical and your internal energy. Another word that could be used there would be fractals. In attempting to grasp the whole of this reflection, you can discern and define your mission. Just as each fragment of a hologram contains the entire image, your mission is reflected, although maybe from a slightly different angle, within each of these many individual energy rays. Still, it takes practice to learn to see the larger picture in these fragments, to learn to add them together to get the sum of your mission. Discovering your contract is bound to give you surprises. You're going to have rugs pulled out from under you and realizations that will rock you. But in the process, you will learn how to see symbolically. It's my cat underneath the table making a shake, sorry. But in the process, you will learn how to see symbolically, how to manage your personal power, and how to fulfill your sacred contracts. In her previous books, Anatomy of the Spirit and Why People Don't Heal and How They Can, Caroline Myss explains some of the ways that energy works, how it organizes itself around our 7 emotional centers, our chakras, and how you can learn to read your energy and hone your intuition to see where your spiritual and physical disruptions or diseases originate. She taught how and why energy could become blocked or distorted, and how this blockage, which is often connected to unfinished business in the past, could be cleared so that you could heal. Usually, the emotional or spiritual healing was tied into learning the lesson of the emotional center or centers involved in the illness. Sometimes the lesson was the illness itself, and learning to work with that form of energy brought insight into the mental and emotional changes that needed to be made. Let's see, what emotions are attached to each chakra? What emotions are attached to each chakra would be some homework assignments for you to do if you find this of interest and think that it might help you. You can just Google chakras and their emotional interpretations. Also, I wanted to make another note here that according to one friend and teacher by the name of Galactic of Gaia, he was speaking to me about, in reference to Sacred Contracts, the name of this book, that it is his belief. First of all, this book was written in 2002, and he informed me that it is his belief that in 2012, all sacred contracts, all contracts, were void and nulled, and that starting in 2013, we have been writing our own contracts on a daily basis. So if that is what you resonate to, you can lend itself to it as a daily contract that you're creating. After many thousands of readings, Caroline Myss came to the conclusion that an organizing principle even greater than the interplay of the chakras is shaping the energy within each of us and shaping our lives as it does so. She began to identify universal forms of cosmic intelligence that are directly involved in the day-to-day organizing of our lives. For example, what day were you born? Another thing that Galan was speaking about. We have that galactic portion of ourselves that's aligned to the day we were born in regards to the alignments in the sky, in the space, in the stars, and that has an effect on us. Now, another couple dudes that I listen to are the United Collective. If you punch in all is one, the United Collective, you're going to see two brothers that are cosmic. And they have a take on that in regards to just because you were born and something's retrograde or something, be aware of it. And if it doesn't lend itself to what you're creating, be strong enough to surpass it. Be aware of it, honor it, respect it. But if it goes against what you're working towards and you're balanced, you don't have to let it affect you. She began to identify universal forms of cosmic intelligence that are directly involved in the day-to-day organization of our lives. In fact, with every reading that she did after 1989, what she could only call an archetypal pattern stepped forward out of the details and fragments of each life and assumed a definite shape, offering clear insight into that person's psyche and why her life was as it was. These patterns, often ancient in origin, populated our minds and lives in ways that affect us deeply. Yet we are generally unaware of them. These patterns of intelligence are archetypes, dynamic living forms of energy that are shared in many people's thoughts and emotions across cultures and countries. My note for there is Christ or cosmic consciousness? ? During one reading about 10 years ago, for instance, while she was looking for emotional data in a woman named Laura, she almost dismissed the energetic quote-unquote hit. While it didn't seem significant to her at the time, she saw a pair of eyes flashing an imperious, hypocritical quote-unquote look. She mentioned this image to Laura, who said that her husband always looked at her that way, judgmentally, as if he were the master and she was the servant. Indeed, Laura herself always had a look, too, one that silently begged for approval from her husband. Yet to Laura, her husband's condescending glances were the energy symbol of their painful marriage. After they spoke, Laura went to several women's support groups, and eventually she understood that she could not wait for her husband's permission to be who she was or who she wanted to become. She realized that she was allowing her husband to make her feel inadequate and powerless, and that these condescending glances symbolized his attitude that she was not his equal. She also sensed that he was so afraid she would leave him that he had to keep her dispowered, or metaphorically barefoot and pregnant. In time, they went into counseling together and were able to make changes that kept their marriage alive while allowing each of them to grow together. Seeing herself enmeshed in the energy pattern of servant and master allowed Laura to break that pattern and become her own master. In working with this archetype, she was able to perform a greater service. Laura came to embody what is positive in the servant by serving a greater good, helping her husband see beyond his fears, and changing her marriage for the better. Learning to read the archetypal patterns that influence your energy is the natural complement to working with the energy of the chakras. Just as the energies of your chakras work together to provide a map of physical and energy information, the collective body of your archetypes produces a view of the governing forces of your psyche and your soul. This interrelationship of forces explains why Caroline Myss was able to move so naturally from reading the energy of chakras to reading the energy of archetypes. Here I put the note, harmonic layers of self is your song. Thank you once again, Galan of Gaia, for that. The harmonic layers of self, that becomes our song. And understanding it as these archetypes intermingling with their chakras, creating that harmonic layer that is our song. We want it to be harmonic, balanced, beautiful. We want it to be tuned. That energy body that surrounds you, which is created by the chakras, contains all the data of your biology and your biography. So it makes sense that this energy could manifest in patterns of archetypes that affect your life. So to work with these big energies, these archetypal patterns, you have to step away from your life. Step up and back from the detailed brushstrokes that make up your energy self-portrait to see the whole picture. Working with your archetypes involves seeing your life in symbols at the center of a panoramic vista. From this vantage point, you are able to take into account all parts of your life. You don't just focus on the major events or significant wounds. In the 1990s, Caroline Myss began teaching seminars on these archetypal energies. As her students learned to identify their archetypal patterns, then link the characteristics of each archetype to crucial behaviors and relationships, they often got instant clues to their life's mission. The energy of the archetype and its manifestation in our psyches and lives is so pervasive and intimate that no part of our lives exists separately from at least one archetypal pattern. Usually, no fewer than 12 are our constant companions. Well, if you add the unified whole, that makes 13, doesn't it? And we do like 13. Each has a story to tell you. Each brings with it the power of the world myths and legends in which it has figured over time, and the energy of the patterns of belief and behavior and puppies Say hi, Effie. That's Amy's and Leo's puppy. Each has a story to tell you. Each brings with it the power of the world myths and legends in which it has figured over time, and the energy of the patterns of belief and behavior out of which it was created. Archeotypes are the architects of our lives. Archeotypes are the architects of our life. And apparently there's like 12 of them. They are the energy companions through whom we can learn to understand ourselves, as Laura did. Now, these psychological, emotional patterns, how we live and whom we love, can lead us to profound understanding of our purpose. The energy can connect us to our higher sacred contract, to our greater mission on the planet or on the cosmic field. As Caroline Myss saw in her readings with Laura, there are no insignificant relationships. Yes, even and especially perhaps the ones that hurt or confuse or baffle. Every experience that we have contains purpose and meaning. Each event, each person in our lives embodies an energetic fragment of our own psyche and soul. Our individual spiritual task is to recognize and integrate all of them into our awareness so that the greater pattern of our mission can shine forth in its full dimensions. This realization eventually became the genesis of this book. In Sacred Contracts lies a process that helps you to discover and integrate the fragments of your psyche. It is a guide to intense self-examination for the purpose of finding your individual archetypal companions and working with them to realize your life's mission and sacred contract. Remember, those individual archetype companions would be like at least 12 fragments of yourself. And those sacred contracts, if you go by the 2012 void and null contract rule, it means you can create your life now. New. Intentionally focused. And exactly as you wish. Energetically and emotionally. You have to be set. Hopefully these next few videos will help you as well as they're helping me. Moreover, this book is an introduction to a mystery school. It's the study of a different sense of time and space that we inhabit through our relationships, which are really our contracts with other people. The language of this mystery school is one of spiritual alchemy. With it, we'll learn to transform heavy, physical relationships and emotions into spiritual gold. This process involves prayer and contemplation, and it also requires examining all the fragments of your life experiences and relationships. You'll be researching your archetypes' energy chemistry, how they express and assert themselves in and through your life. By discovering and working with your individual archetypal companions, your connections to the cosmic forces directing your life, you will consciously affect the course of your life. Video 2 hopefully will come up soon. For those of you that are wondering why haven't I been posting, technical difficulties, my love. It's not from lack of trying. Thank you for your patience, and we'll see if this uploads. Much love. Talk to you soon. Siri.